Nice to see so many of you joining. Thank you for being early and prompt. Extra points for being on time. Very, very appreciated. If you want to go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat, say hello, your name, where are you joining from? As everyone starts to log in, we'll get a sense of who's in the room, what it is you're all bringing, what perspectives, and that'll be fab. So thank you. As people start to join in, I'm going to share some quick housekeeping, what to expect from the day, what to do if we all suddenly get cut off, anything like that. Some of you have asked for note takers, so AI notes. Florencia, are you okay with that? Would you rather we share a transcript?
Yes, no problem.
Okay, so I'll admit all of the AI note taking as well. Right. As more people start to join, you'll see my eyes darting around as I start to admit people. Please don't mind me. This is just part of hosting a Zoom call. So as it's 3 o'clock for me, I'm just going to get started and we'll get into the housekeeping. And as more people join, hopefully they can jump in. Please do share in the chat where you're joining from, say hello, what are you looking to get out of the session? So welcome. Today is our June ITAC think tank. We are the International Teaching Artists Collaborative. We are the worldwide network of artists who use their artistry to create social change. You can hear from my accent, I'm based here in Scotland, but most of our colleagues and our hubs are based all over the world. I see Yong Lin, who's our chair, who's based in Singapore. Nice to see you, Yong Lin, and lots of other international colleagues here too. So a few bits of housekeeping before I hand over to our hosts for today. This is an ITAC think tank. This is something that we host every single month. It's an open platform for people from our network who have something interesting, innovative to share about their practice, where they are in the world, and what feels urgent and emerging for them. If you have an idea for a think tank you would like to host, please don't be shy, get in touch, and we will work with you. Even if you're new at presenting, we'll work with you on how to put something together. We are a membership organisation. Membership is totally free, but you sign up, you fill in a form, and it helps us understand the sector internationally. Who are teaching artists? What is our network made up of? What's important to us, and all the rest. So if you're not a member yet, please do sign up. You'll have signed up for today through an event on our members platform, but it is open to the public too. So if you didn't take that extra step, please do. And our think tank next month is primarily in Spanish and Portuguese, but I've put the details in the chat there in case you'd like to join. Today's session will be in English. It may not be everyone on the call's first language, so please do remember to speak slowly. If we ask you to repeat something, please don't be offended. And if you feel uncomfortable speaking, but you're better with writing, you are, of course, welcome to use the chat and one of us will pick up on what's written there. Today's call is being recorded. Just because so many people are in so many time zones, we want to capture it so that everyone can have access after the fact, even if they couldn't join live. For that reason, if you, by signing up today, you've given permission for that to happen. If you'd rather not be seen, you can switch your camera off, but just be conscious when your camera's on and anything you say out loud in this session will be recorded and uploaded as part of that recording to our YouTube channel afterwards. It's always nice for our hosts to be able to see faces. So if you are there and you are okay with being part of a recording, please do switch your camera on if you can. There's no pressure if you can't, but as someone who regularly hosts things, it's really nice to see people nodding and smiling rather than lots of black rectangles. So that's a request from me. If at any point we get cut off and the call just ends, don't panic, just rejoin the link that we were given. I'll restart the call at the same link and we'll just jump right back into where we left off. I think that is everything from me for the moment. If anything else pops up, if anyone needs anything, I'll be on the chat in the background helping. But But a final plea from me, if you've signed up for today and you are not a member of ITAC, please do join. We have colleagues all over the world doing really fantastic projects, and we are so much more powerful as a sector when we're connected. We know the policy struggles happening in this country and we can contribute in that one. A toolkit exists over here and we want to use it over there. All of that's only possible if we're connected and in touch. So please do take that step if you haven't yet. You don't need to be a teaching artist. You can be a supporter, a funder, a government body, someone with an interest, and sign up through the non-TA pathway. So with that being said, I will hand over to our host for today, Florencia, who's going to talk to us about what to expect and all the good stuff we have in today's call. So Florencia, over to you.
Thank you so much, Madeleine. So let's start, first of all, with the agenda of the day. So I will start with the more technical part about innovative finance. We will be exploring the topic of today, that is new funding models specifically for the arts, culture, and creative industries. So we learn different research. We will providing evidence based on research, but we will also be very practical. So we invited 2 case studies, one from Latin America and one from the UK. In the case of Latin America, the guest speakers will be speaking in Spanish and we will translate it into English so everybody can also understand. And finally, we will open the mic for 10 minutes for a Q&A. So we will ask that during the entire hour, if you could leave questions in the chat, and before we leave, we will answer them. So before we start, Madeleine, could you please share the poll 1? So let's start first by understanding a little bit if you are familiar with these several funding models that you can see on the screen: matching funds, outcome-based contracts, repayable grants. You can select if you're familiar with some of them. We will start explaining later the different models.
So you don't have to answer poll 3 yet. They've all appeared at once. Just ignore the last one and we'll come back to that.
Okay, so we can see that venture philanthropy is one of the models that it's between grants and impact investment that the audience is quite familiar.
Yes.
So, outcome-based contracts we also have. Okay, we can, yeah, I think that's the most relevant that you are familiar with is venture philanthropy. That's amazing. And regarding the question 2, that is, what's your main challenge in receiving funds? As you know, cultural organization has several funding challenges. We can see that the most common one is the lack of knowledge of innovative funding mechanisms. Amazing. So we will be hosting the session on that. So that's wonderful. Yes, around business models also, it's one of the issues. And then the reliance on project-based funding. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for answering this. It's very helpful for us to understand a little bit who are in the other side of the screen. Thank you so much for joining us. And also, again, thank you, ITAC and the guest speakers to be here today. So with that, I will start. First of all, presenting Pulso, that is my consulting firm. So we have been working on this specific topic that is helping the cultural organization and also art funders, connecting them for the last 12 years. I have been doing that job. As a consequence, Pulso was born in 2022, as we identified that one of the main challenges for funders to mobilize private capital or innovative capital was the lack of knowledge of cultural organizations. So that's why this is one of the tools that we use, that is our webinars. We also host private workshops. We're building a global community where we gather different art funders from across the world. We also provide strategic consulting. So, for example, we have been working with the Ministry of Culture in Spain, or Future Yard, a cultural organization in the UK. And we also collaborate with funders, and that's why we unlock innovative capital. One of the examples is Cultura Latinoamérica, that Julia, Correa, and Mayra Mosquera will be explaining later today. But I have been a jury of that fund and supporting different cultural accelerators also from Latin America, Europe, and North America. So, why Pulso has been working on this? Because as you know, the cultural sector is very dependent on philanthropic models. Like the most common way of invest in the sector are grants, subsidies, sponsorships. So what we are trying to do is to bridge that gap, because of course that the philanthropic capital and the more traditional capital is shrinking, and this is not only happening in one country, it's a global problem that we are having in our sector. And that's like, if we start understanding why what is this happening? Well, it's because first of all, the business models, that's one of the challenges that the cultural organization has. Also, if we put the lenses of of an investor side point of view, we see that the funding provision is insufficient. So we have like, for example, in the National Endowment for the Arts in Argentina, where I worked, only around 10% of the cultural organizations receive funding.
Florencia, sorry to interrupt. It looks like we're still on the welcome slide, and there are some requests in the chat to see current slides.
Thank you for, yes. Let's see now.
Yes, there we go.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Please let me know if this happens again so I can correct it. So I was saying that in terms of public investors, the funding is insufficient, it's short term, so it's very common that cultural organizations present projects and not the cultural organization per se to receive investments. And also there is a lack of education, and that's why these webinars or workshops have the intention to connect both sides of the table. And also one of the mandatory requests of impact investors is to measure the social and environmental impact that cultural organizations generate. And a lot of time it's very challenging, because in the cultural sector, we work with intangibles, we work with emotions, we work with transformation. So it's quite challenging to put numbers or to select metrics and indicators to share that to the investor, but that's possible. We will see now a tool that it's working with that. So from the other side, the three main solutions that we are going to see today for those challenges are, first, the community, so the value chain, so you can also identify yourself, because as Madeleine was saying, here in this call, we have different actors in the ecosystem. Second, I will introduce a research around Arts Impact Fund, and so we will discuss around a capital spectrum. And finally, we will share some case studies. So let's start first with the ecosystem, because, you know, if we want to change a paradigm, or if we want to create a systemic solution, we want to work through the entire value chain. So you can see here some of the organizations that we work in Pulso with. So for example, and you can see here also that we start separating them in the different types of actors that we have. in terms of cultural and creative organization, we have the non-profit, like association, foundation. We have hybrid models between them and for-profit organizations. So maybe you can start identifying in which of this bubble you belong and which is your role in terms of to mobilize and to change this funding paradigm. Second, in terms of intermediaries, who are here, we have consulting firms, for example, Deloitte, that is a very active organization working also on this topic, that is to try to mobilize more social impact investment. We have universities like Oxford University have been pushing also impact investing and explaining and sharing like these new alternative models to invest in the social sector with their impact investing program. We also have private foundations that are intermediaries because they connect not only through funding, but with accelerators, incubators, specifically for arts and culture. So we have Carazo in Spain, or Moleskine in Italy, or ITAC, for example, for focus on teaching artistry. And some incubators, for example, specifically incubators, it's their only mission. In Italy, we have R84, or in Canada too. And then in terms of funders, that also here we have some arts funders, we have non-repayable funders. And what is the meaning of it is that they only provide grants or subsidies. They are not looking to receive a capital or interest return. Then in the middle, we have hybrid funders that they are looking, for example, for repayable grants. So a repayable grant is when they are trying to recover the capital that they provide. And then at the end, we have repayable instruments. So in this case, for example, we have Upstart Collab in the US, Community Investment Management also in the US, or Figurative or Triodos in the UK that are working on this, or the European Investment Fund. So here you see some of the examples of the different actors that we are currently working with to change the funding model. Can you see, Madeleine, that the changing slides, or should I project again?
Yes, we can see a sort of jigsaw pathway thing happening.
Okay, perfect. So here in particular, you can see also the ecosystem of impact investing that is quite different if we analyze specifically for the cultural sector. This is not designed for the cultural, is impact investing per se. So here you can see some organizations that are working specifically on impact measurement and management. You can see some that are working with social entrepreneurs that are more focused, like Ashoka. And you can see in terms of networks, the Global Steering Group, the Global Impact Investing Network. So also in Pulso, we have been hosting panels inside these networks to put art and culture in the impact investing picture. And in terms of deal making, you can also see some of organizations that are working, mobilizing or investing directly in cultural organizations, like, for example, Big Society Capital in the UK. So that's challenge one. So ecosystem, identify where do you belong in this ecosystem view. Second, the business model spectrum. So now what we need to understand and what we present here is the different models that we have between non-profit and for-profit. And this is like mainly to understand then if we will see the innovative finance spectrum, which is the capital allocation, because non-profits can't receive, for example, equity, for-profit can receive equity. So also is to match the business model that you have as in your organization with the funding model. So you also, what we need to mention here is that the cultural and creative industries are very diverse, are very heterogeneous. So it's impossible to just design one new funding mechanism that applies and that works for all of them. So as we can see here, I try to allocate which is the most traditional business model connected to that industry. But of course that we have, for example, in terms of visual arts, it's more intent to be non-profit, but of course that we have for-profit models. So this is not determinative, it's just to see what is the most traditional way of, if you're a cultural leader, which is the most typical legal view that you will select. In terms of hybrid, what is this? Well, maybe you're familiar with social enterprises that are more inclined in for-profit because they are looking for a return in the investment, but they sit between non-profit and for-profit because inside their core mission, it's also the social value. They are trying to generate a social or environmental impact. And finally, what we have is the innovative finance spectrum. So here what we have and what we are going to work today is specifically on this topic, that it's between grants and ESG, that maybe you're familiar with more traditional investment that is also looking for impact, but it's finance first. So the cultural sector, and what we have been saying is that it's very reliant on grants or subsidies or donations, sponsorship, patronage, crowdfunding, or philanthropic matching funds, that, as you can see, the approximate market size, it's around 75 billion. This is information from 2022. And as you can see, the estimated returns is less 100% because they are not repaying the capital. So when you receive a grant, you will use it for your project, but you are not, it's not mandatory to repay the capital. Then if we start moving a little bit more to program-related investment and impact investment, impact first, we can see that it's between impact first and finance first, because here you need to repay the capital. But then there are some models that are more dependent on the financial return or on the impact return. So those models that are more intended in and focused on impact first are, for example, repayable grants. So funders that are asking you to repay the grant, but the main focus on the fund is the impact return. Then we have venture philanthropy that follows this logic too. Impact is more important than the financial return. And finally, we have in these impact first models, outcome-based funds that we will see the case of Cultura Latinoamérica by SURA and Latimpacto later. Then if we start moving a little bit more between impact first and finance first, we have the more traditional impact investing model that I will explain later, but also we have here a case study from Scotland that they will share the impact investment model that is working for specifically for the cultural sector. Here also we see the crowd lending model that in what it differs from crowdfunding is that it's lending. So when you lend, you need to repay also. It's like a loan, so you need to repay the capital. And it can be impact first or finance first. And I will stop here because for the cultural sector, it's very different if we compare it to different industries, for example, the energy industry, education, that maybe you can find more finance first models, but they are not so common in the cultural sector. And here what we see is mission-related investment, development finance, green or social bonds. So for example, there is any social impact fund working on cultural in the cultural industry. But we have around 200 social impact bonds in the world. And finally, ESG. So here what I present is the innovative finance spectrum. So of course, if you have questions, you can leave them on the chat and then we will go to them. So just as a summary of what I have been explaining, so if I make a dive into impact investing, because it's one of the new funding ways to invest in the sector, I will explain more in detail because maybe you have here like a lot of people is wondering what is this. So they are investments that instead of just thinking on the financial return, they are also looking for a positive and measurable social or environmental impact. But of course that at the same time, they are looking for a financial return because we are talking about investments. So the change in the formula is that instead of like traditional investors, what we see was return and risk. Here, what we are adding is impact. So it's fundamental to explain and to support as cultural leaders the impact that you are generating with your project or with your organization. And finally, here, what we see is the market size, that this is around 1.2 trillion assets under management. This is the GIN, that is one of the networks that I presented in the beginning, who measured this. So just to present a little bit of research, what we can see here is a map of arts impact funds around the globe. That this was this research I presented at the Deloitte Art Finance Report in 2023. And now for this year, we are also presenting a new article. What we can see here, that is because maybe in the theory, this in the spectrum, you see that, oh, but this is too complicated, like who is doing this in the cultural sector? Well, you can see here that more than 40 arts impact funds are working, and this is not only in the US or in the UK or in Europe. We have also cases in Latin America, in Africa, in India, and also on a global perspective. If we make a double click on some of these cases, we can see here also a variety, this variety of mechanisms that I explained before in terms of the repayable grants, equity or repayable or loans, outcome-based contracts, flexible loans. Here you can see concrete examples of funders working within the cultural and creative industries, and also working in different geographies. So you have examples from Africa, from Latin America, from the UK. Also, what you can find here is a diversity in the fund size and also in the investment ticket range or the SDG that they are covering. So as I mentioned before, it's fundamental to start measuring the impact that you generate. And one of the tools that you can use for that are the SDGs, so the Sustainable Development Goals. And if we analyze with the previous 7 cases selected, you can see that the most common one that funders are looking is the SDG 8, decent work and economic growth. So for example, if you're a cultural leader, you can measure how your organization is working on these several SDGs. Finally, if you're interested in learning more on research or innovative business cases or innovative ways to invest in the sector, I'm leaving also 2 research papers that I participate with. One is focused on Spain, that is towards the creation of a cultural impact fund, and more on a global perspective is impact investing in the global creative economy. So here you see more examples, because I think that it's very important not only to learn like theories or models, but also to learn how different organizations are working on this. And now let's start with our first case. So please let me allow to introduce Julia Correa, who is the Director of Social Management at Fundación SURA, and Mayra Mosquera, who is the Coordinator of the Culture Fund at Latimpacto. So we will turn the conversation to Spanish, and I will translate so we are all in the same conversation. But first of all, muchísimas gracias, Julia and Mayra, por acompañarnos hoy. So voy a dejar de presentar y darle la palabra a ellas para que nos cuenten, en primer lugar, un poco sobre Fundación SURA, sobre Latimpacto y por qué es tan virtuosa esta alianza entre ellas. So first, they will introduce a little bit around their organizations and why it's so virtuous, this partnership between both of them.
Voy a empezar yo. Hola, buenos días acá en Colombia. Yo estoy en Medellín, Colombia. Contarles que SURA, Fundación SURA, nace hace 54 años y es una organización que gestiona los recursos de SURA Americana, que nace hace 80 años en Colombia y nace originalmente como una empresa de seguros, pero siempre muy interesada en poder participar activamente de los procesos de la sociedad, en educación, en cultura, en el apoyo a organizaciones sociales. Paro ahí si quieres.
Oh, sí, perfecto. So Fundación SURA is the social investment vehicle of the SURA business group. They have around 44 years of experience, and it channels in contribution into initiatives focused on quality education, cultural promotion, and citizenship and democratic development. In the cultural promotion, its priority is the capacity building of cultural organizations in the region, recognizing them as key mediators between art and the public.
Originalmente nosotros gestionábamos los recursos económicos, financiábamos más de una forma más filantrópica, pero con los años hemos ido evolucionando esa manera de invertir nuestros recursos para poder garantizar o apoyar el fortalecimiento de capacidades, en este caso de organizaciones culturales.
So for the last year, they have been changing their funding models. They were more traditional grants, and they are intended to invest more with an impact lenses, and specifically for the cultural sector too.
Y allí es como nace Cultura Latinoamérica, que es una estrategia para no solamente llegar a organizaciones culturales que no vemos desde acá, desde Colombia, porque el impacto es en Latinoamérica, es llegar a estas organizaciones, pero fortalecer sus capacidades de conexión entre ellas y de medición de impacto y demás.
And that's how they reach to create and to launch Cultura Latinoamérica. That it's a call for proposal. It's an initiative that fosters knowledge, promotes collaborative work networks, and provides financial resources to enable artistic projects that generate impact data that can be mapped and used as a valuable input for future funders of the sector.
Allí entonces nos unimos a Latimpacto. Voy a dejar para que Mayra presente Latimpacto. Con ellos hemos logrado poder hacer esa mezcla entre recursos económicos que desde la Fundación SURA se entregan, más todo el conocimiento de medición de impacto en el que nos apoya Latimpacto.
So now Mayra will present their partner, that is Latimpacto. So Mayra, me puedes contar y yo luego te traduzco también.
Hola, buenos días, buenas tardes para algunos. Yo también estoy desde Colombia, como Julia, estoy en la ciudad de Cali. Soy la coordinadora del Fondo Cultura de Latimpacto y Latimpacto es una red de América Latina y el Caribe que reúne como el mayor número de proveedores de capital con el propósito de generar cambios en el ámbito social y ambiental.
So Latimpacto, so Mayra is the director of the fund, and she was explaining that it's the Latin American and Caribbean network that brings together the largest number of impact investors with the main goal of generating positive and environmental change. They have 3 core lines, that is learn, connect, and act, and it seeks to deploy resources effectively.
Esto lo realizamos a través principalmente de 3 líneas de acción que son aprender, conectar y actuar. Y pues esto es lo que hemos realizado junto con Fundación SURA, porque estamos aprendiendo a través de conocimientos, nos conectamos entre las organizaciones y pues actuamos desde el operativo con lo que ejecutamos.
Okay, yes, so they are working on these 3 core lines, that is learn, connect, and act, and together with Fundación SURA, they manage both these open call. ¿Quieren contar ahora un poco el por qué nace esta convocatoria? Las 3 razones principales, sí, cómo nace el por qué.
Nuestra prioridad es fortalecer el sector cultural y sobre todo desde la institucionalidad, es decir, desde las organizaciones que realizan temas culturales. Y la convocatoria la pensamos precisamente para poder juntar iniciativas, generar redes de trabajo colaborativas, juntar iniciativas de organizaciones culturales en Latinoamérica, poder financiar esas iniciativas y generar un conocimiento para el sector. Con este conocimiento que estamos teniendo, la idea es poder más adelante seguir invirtiendo en el sector, pero con datos e información que nos permitan tomar mejores decisiones a la hora de invertir.
Okay, so they are doing this initiative mainly to learn how to invest in the sector and to they are receiving data from the entire Latin America because this fund that is a 1.5 million fund, it's not only investing through capital but also with technical assistance. So later when they start collecting all the impact that these organizations are doing, they will be able to continue investing on the sector in a better way.
Ahí, Flore, yo creo que mencionar que son 15 iniciativas que seleccionamos que provienen de 30 organizaciones distintas.
So currently they are investing in 15 binational projects from Latin America. And they belong, yes, as it's binational, like they have 30 organizations that they are investing in. Bien. ¿Algo más del razonamiento o pasamos con Mayra a metodología?
Yo
Metodología.
creo que metodología. Listo. Les cuento. La metodología que hemos venido desarrollando en la convocatoria es una, digamos, una integración desde lo financiero y lo no financiero, el apoyo no financiero, que es la capacitación técnica y acompañamiento a la ejecución de las organizaciones. Me
So,
dices,
sí.
dale.
And so I think that, and I want to highlight this too, because what is very innovative in their case is that it's focused on the impact measurement and the technical support, not only in providing the grants to the project. So it's based on a measurement framework that integrates outcome indicator and process management metrics, allowing for a clear understanding of the results achieving through the goal. In doing so, the model promotes the scalability and continuity of the project beyond the initial funding period, because they once they start funding on them, then they provide during several months technical assistance.
A los 15 proyectos que fueron seleccionados de la región, que son 30 organizaciones en total, se les otorgaron hasta $100,000 por iniciativa y esos desembolsos se hicieron en 3 hitos, o se están haciendo en 3 hitos. El primer 40% fue al inicio de la convocatoria, el segundo 40% al ejecutar el 50% de las actividades, que ahí tenemos como un mecanismo de revisión previa para estar como en sintonía a lo que están realizando. Entonces ahí tenemos herramientas como un informe financiero, un informe narrativo y una matriz de indicadores. Y por último, el 20% ya con los productos finales de los proyectos teniendo en cuenta su objetivo inicial.
So something very relevant also is the size of the funding because it's 100,000 per project. So for the 30 organizations, they presented 15 projects. So per project is 100,000, and this is quite a relevant number in Latin America. And also, what is one of the main innovations in their initiative is how they deploy the capital, and that's why it's an outcome-based contract, because the funding is delivered through a 3-stage disbursement scheme based on the submission of supporting documentation that is linked to the impact these organizations are doing. So the first installment is a 40% that is provided outset upon signing the agreement, so the organizations can start working on their project. The second 40% is upon completion of 50% of the activity, and it's subjected to the approval of a financial report, a narrative report, and an indicator matrix. And the final 20% is granted at project completion upon submission of deliverables and financial documentation. So as you can see, I think that is one of the first outcome-based contracts for the cultural sector in Latin America, combining funding but also technical and impact measurement evidence.
Algo para resaltar es que la matriz de indicadores, la medición que estamos realizando, la hicimos inicialmente con cada uno de los proyectos teniendo en cuenta sus ítems y luego consolidamos o, digamos, alineamos indicadores que estuvieran transversales y a partir de eso hemos consolidado una información para conocer un poco el alcance social, económico y cultural de la convocatoria.
So also Mayra is highlighting the diverse of the different metrics that they are doing in this impact measurement framework.
Y pues, digamos que algo que nos ha llamado mucho la atención es que esto resalta tanto la medición en la cultura, que es un poco el flagelo, también el acompañamiento técnico y como todos los indicadores, tanto resultados como gestión de procesos para ir más allá de la convocatoria.
So they are analyzing metrics regarding to the process, but also to the impact that they generate in their territories or in their communities. And these metrics are transversal. So they are also helping the organization to measure their impact because, as we said, it's very complex to allocate indicators or metrics to more intangible or yes, the emotions that culture per se works with. ¿Querés compartir una historia de éxito? No sé si querés
Sí.
proyectar o nos vas a contar un poco. So we will...
A ver, ¿te puedo proyectar?
A ver si podés, si no, le pedimos
Si
a
no,
Madeleine.
puedes compartir el link. A ver, creo que no me deja compartir.
Bueno, si querés ponerlo en el chat y lo...
Ujú.
So now what we will share is one of the cases that is currently invested by Cultura Latinoamérica, that it's called Ritmo dos Mares. Ritmo de dos Mares. So Mayra, if you want to share, can you see the screen?
Ok, yes.
Si querés compartir un poquito por oraciones y yo
Listo. Ritmo de dos mares, sonido raizal de Portobelo a Tumaco, es un proyecto que conecta los sonidos de marimba del Pacífico Sur colombiano y la música congo de Portobelo de Panamá.
Okay, so it's a project mainly of exchanging musical, like native musical sounds that connect the roots of Afrodescendientes, like people that came from Africa in Caribe Panameño, that in the Panamanian Caribbean, with the South Pacific, also in Colombia, mainly through music. So they connect these two diverse cultural identities through music.
Ellos tuvieron una financiación de hasta $100.000. Realizaron la ejecución desde agosto del año pasado hasta ahorita, hasta junio. Y se impactaron alrededor de 30 músicos de las escuelas principales, las escuelas participantes, que fue Bejuco de Colombia, Tumaco, y Escuelita del Ritmo de Panamá.
So they received 100,000 and it was allocated for 30 musicians. ¿Puedes repetir los nombres porque no me los acuerdo?
La agrupación Bejuco de Colombia y Escuelita del Ritmo de Panamá.
Okay, so those are the Spanish, and it's okay, I think, that to say the names in Spanish of some of the projects that have been receiving this investment.
Y también tuvieron una participación de 430 asistentes a sus muestras musicales porque sus productos finales fueron un documental, un videoclip y un EP, un mini álbum que fue el resultado de la creación artística que tuvieron entre ambos.
So the deliverables was a documentary and also an EP, like and the audience, so how many people they have been impacted is around 400 attendees. And as you can see, they are minority groups.
Y algo como para finalizar y resaltar es que a través de esta residencia hubo un intercambio de saberes, de patrimonio y también como de colaboración, de creación entre músicos y comunidades.
So one of the impact, apart from the number of people that has been received or have participated on with their more cultural products, is the exchange of cultural roots. ¿Qué más, May? Puedo repetirme los intercambios que tuvimos.
Los intercambios de saberes, de
Sí.
patrimonio, de
So
memoria y
also, espera. So
Dale.
also, me estoy proyectando, no puedo. So also, the exchange in heritage. So because one of them was focusing sharing their own heritage, patrimonio, saberes y
Colaboración entre músicos y comunidades.
and collaboration between musicians and communities from different regions from Latin America. And what can you see here in the website is the deliverable that they have been able to produce through the funding of Cultura Latinoamérica. ¿Algo más? Ahí estamos.
Nada más por ahora para compartir.
Muchísimas gracias. And just to close, para finalizar, Julia nos va a contar un poco de los próximos pasos de esta convocatoria.
Bueno, tenemos ganas. Vamos a sacar una próxima versión de esta convocatoria en el 2026, primer semestre de 2026. Es una convocatoria abierta a muchas organizaciones legalmente constituidas en sus países de origen y en este segundo semestre de 2025 vamos a organizar los términos y condiciones, la documentación de la convocatoria y estamos también dispuestos a encontrar otros financiadores, otros aliados que se sumen tanto a Latimpacto como a Fundación SURA a estar, digamos, detrás de la convocatoria impulsando esta iniciativa.
So they are launching the second call in the first semester of 2026, but this second semester of 2025, they are working on the terms and conditions, and also they are looking for partners and investors that can join the fund. As we said, it's a 1.5 million fund that is very relevant in Latin America. So if there is also like in these matching fund strategies that we have been presenting, if there is an investor that is interested in joining the call or the project, we will leave the mails also to reach out to Julia or Mayra to be
Lore,
part of it. Sí.
Dejé en el chat un enlace para un formulario por si están interesados y nos escriban y allí nos contactamos.
Amazing. So in the chat, you can find a link. So if you're interested, it's here, Julia Correa. If you're interested in Cultura Latinoamericana, you can click on that link and you can leave your information to learn more about the open call or how to be partners of this initiative. Bueno, muchísimas gracias por compartir el caso. And now we will share the second case. So we have Kieran here with us from Social Investment Scotland. So here, as you can see, we are a little bit more up in the capital spectrum because we are going to deep dive into impact investing. So Kieran, thank you so much for being here with us today. So would you like to start sharing a little bit about Social Investment Scotland and the project?
Sure. Can I share my screen, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Madeleine, can you give him access to that?
Yep, everyone hopefully should have access.
Real excellent. Thank you. Great. So thanks for asking me to participate today. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Kieran Daly and I work for Social Investment Scotland. My job title is Head of Market Building, which is a term we use for all of the programmes and business support that we offer at Social Investment Scotland. I've worked in impact investment for about 10 years. Prior to that, I worked in London running social enterprises and running fundraising campaigns for multiple arts, environmental and youth organisations. So at Social Investment Scotland, there are 4 different aims within our strategy and what we do. I won't read all of the text on the screen, but to give you a flavour, we invest money in charities and social enterprises mainly, which span different impact areas, so cultural organisations, environmental organisations, and other types of organisations that make real impact within Scotland and in some other parts of the UK also. There are several different strands of the work that we deliver. There's the investment part, which is communities, access to finance, which provides financial products for those that are at risk of greater costs of finance because they are basically in poverty. So we provide some access to products there. We've got an innovation strand of our strategy, which allows us to partner with different organisations to create new capacity building programmes or financial products. And the 4th area is market building. That's the area that I lead. So in terms of the market building work that we do, there's 3 key areas that we focus on. And it's primarily based on what we see as the needs within any sort of social, cultural, environmental organisation that's grown quite organically, responding to social or environmental or cultural needs, but then gets to a stage where it needs to apply some more structures in order to be more sustainable going forward. So we have programmes that are based on leadership and growth, cohort-based programmes. One of them is funded by our partner, the People's Postcode Lottery, who provide grants and also access to impact investment. Investment readiness, so we have a suite of events that we run in Scotland with some of the major grant-giving organisations in Scotland, which bridge the gap between traditional grant giving and impact investment. So we deliver those. And then we have one-to-one business support, which is delivered through a range of, or a pool of associates that we have at Social Investment Scotland, who are primarily people that have either run social enterprises, businesses, or accountants, have expertise in property, basically every single area that we can think of that will support an organisation to be more commercial and also deliver more social, environmental and cultural impact. In terms of this, the tool that we have on our website, in terms of investment readiness and how we support organisations to access investment, it's actually quite simple in terms of what we look for. There's 3 questions. If you're looking for a loan from us, how much are you looking for? How are you going to pay it back? And what's your impact? Those are the 3 key areas. There's a tool on our website which we use that explores a wee bit more about what we consider to be an organisation that is robust and we're able to invest in. The social, environmental or cultural impact is really important as an impact investor. That was touched on before. The governance of the organisation is crucially important. Who have you got on your board? What kind of advice you have? What support? Who's there to advise the organisation? That's really important to us. The products or services, so that could be a cultural product or service. How is that delivered? How is it commercialised? How do you make money from it? People and skills, so within the organisation, what kind of skills is within that organisation? How is it balanced? How do you have the people that are really focused on the impact generation and people that are focused on the commercial side of running a social enterprise? Then business planning, sales and marketing and financial controls. Really, what controls do you have in place to know that you have enough money to be viable? And what controls you have in place to know that if you do run into some problems, you're able to acknowledge them and resolve them in a timely manner. So in terms of the Cultural Accelerator Programme, this was funded by Creative Scotland and delivered by Social Investment Scotland in 2023. And we're now into a phase of running the programme again in 2025. In 2023, we supported a total of 9 organisations with the associates model. So basically, we provided 9 organisations that are listed on the screen with support from our associate pool to work on different areas to make them more commercial. Basically, so that was the main aim of the organisation. So for some of them, it was looking at how their commercial model operated. How did they price their commercial model? Who are their customers? How did they build an audience? That sort of thing. For some, it was roundabout looking at their governance models. How do they attract different trustees, different directors with a varied skill set to their board to support the development of the organisation? Going to focus on the time that we've got on one of the organisations we supported. So Edinburgh Arts Festival, amazing organisation based in Edinburgh, of course. And they were going through a period of change as an organisation. And one of the key areas that they wanted to focus on was building a board of trustees, so a new board of trustees. So we were able to put our associate with a background in recruitment into the organisation to work with the executive director and the existing trustees to think about what skills they need in the board and to work with them to access basically new trustees, help them go through a due diligence process, making sure that there's the right cultural fit for that organisation to make sure that the people that they recruited onto the board were the right people and they weren't going to have problems further down the line with them. So that was a piece of work that we did there. That's a canter through what we did with Creative Scotland, just to I've shortened it just to be in line with the time that we have available. But I understand you might have some questions or you might want to follow up later on with us about some of the work that we do in Social Investment Scotland with regards to investment or the market building work.
Thank you so much for the presentation and for sharing this inspiring case from the UK. So maybe we can open the mic. Mylene first, would you like to share the final question? So if you'd like to share some learnings of the session, and then we have like some minutes to answer Q&A.
While people are thinking of your word, Florencia, there were some really good questions in the chat, and I know we're running out of time, so I don't know if you want to have a quick look at some of those.
Sure. Let's start with that. So I don't know if someone wants to open their mic to just ask also to the guest speakers if you have any question around the topics they presented.
There was a couple of really good questions from Nicoletta and Kai. What type of organisation, and obviously some of our speakers then answered this, but I think it would be good to summarise. What type of organisations are invested in? And can you share how do the investors get the return? So what kind of projects generate a return?
Yes, so of course this depends on the funding mechanism because we presented several of them. So in for example, Cultura Latinoamericana only focus on organization based in some countries in Latin America, and as Karen shared also, like they only invest in Scotland. So of course at first the geography of the organization where it's located, and then there are some funds that are more inclined to only to nonprofits. For example, Cultura Latinoamericana only invest in associations or NGOs, but you have also different funds that invest also in non and for-profit, both of them, and also social enterprises. So it really depends on the funder, but there is a variety through the entire business model spectrum. And then in terms of how investors get return, well, Also, if it's a loan, for example, that you have to, like, if it's the model, it's a social impact investment, and through a loan, you have to repay it with the revenue that you're receiving from different revenue streams. So, for example, if you are imagine a community music venue, and you ask a loan to improve the infrastructure of your venue, well, you will repay it with the revenue that you have from your bar, through the revenue that you get from the tickets, also from some grants that you received. You will create a combination of the different revenues and repay with that. Nicoleta, I don't know if I answer, I hope so, but it's very important, I think, to first create a cash flow, so you can understand if you will be able to repay the loan, in case it's a loan, with your current revenue streams. We also have a question from Usumusi, sorry, I hope I'm pronouncing correctly your name. So what are the requirements to access the funding, and does the funding caters for capacity building programs in teaching theater? Yes, of course. So also depending on the funder will change the requirements. For example, for teaching artistries, mainly from the performing sector. I don't know, where are you based? If maybe you could share us, but there is a really good program launched by Arts Council England, specifically for touring performing companies. If you're not familiar, I encourage you to have a look, because they are also providing capacity building and technical assistance apart from the funding. It's a repayable grant scheme. Yes. I don't know if there is any other question, Madeleine, maybe you could help me with that, or...
I think that was the crux of it. I think there's a big appetite for people to understand where they can go to follow up with speakers from today, how they can stay in touch with any ideas. And I know we've put some links in the chat. Oh, we've just had one more.
Okay, so final question, how international individual community artists ask for funds for show? Yes. First, create a really good pitch deck so you can explain how are you like to show the impact that you are generating. So maybe you can use one of the tools that we share, the SDGs, or maybe in your organization you are working with your own impact measurement framework. So first, be, in my opinion, and as a suggestion, very focused on the impact that you are generating, and then focus on the business model and the financial projections so you will be able to repay if it's a repayable scheme. So here also you can see in the chat the emails from Julia. Also you have some links to Latimpacto, Social Investment Scotland. So if you have also from ITAC, so if you have, if you need to follow up on the conversation, you can go to the links that we share. And just to be on time, I think that we cover all the topics. So thank you so much.
And thank you, Florencia, and our speakers. We are at time. Time really flies when you're learning about something that is brand new or that is difficult. So thank you for taking the time to explain it to us. I think for probably a lot of teaching artists, practitioners in the room, it's quite a new concept. And so hopefully this will be the first of a few where we can learn about how our practice, how our skills might be living in the impact investment space in the future. So thank you. As always, everyone, this has been recorded. It will be available online. We have a brand new members platform where we'll start to post things afterwards. Any links, things from the chat, please go there and share it. Be in touch with each other there. We'll put slides there, and the recording will go on our YouTube as always. Please do sign up to be a member so you can stay in touch with future events, with other things that are going on with the community about how we might attend. But for now, just a really massive thank you to Florencia and to our speakers for today for taking the time to share this with us. I hope that we get to check in again soon once we all have read all the documents and understand it all thoroughly. So thank you. I'll leave the chat open for a couple of minutes before I close the call for people to copy, paste, save what you need. But thank you. And